The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves hip photos.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening and welcome to Sports Talk. Tonight's topic is the LA Lakers. What will they do without LeBron? Can Ozempic Doncic cover while he's out? And what happened to the Milwaukee Bucks with all their injuries? Where are we going? Who will make the playoffs? Jesse, weigh in on the state of the NBA.
There was a point on your network that Jason Teasley and myself had a sports show.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't
You
that
could have
fun?
fit in. I wish you were gambling back then. By
Wasn't-
golly, we could have had a discussion.
Wasn't that
but next-
from the cheap seats?
Yes, it was. As
That's
a matter
right.
of
I
fact.
thought they only talk football, though.
Oh no, we talked, dude. We had a NASCAR commentator come. Well, commentator. I should put journalist. How's that? We had a NASCAR journalist come on.
Really?
We talked NASCAR one time. Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
awesome. All right. Let me take this seriously.
For those of you who were confused, by the title that you clicked on, take two.
All right, folks. Welcome to TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is The West Wing. I am joined by the President of these United States, Dorian Price. How do you do, your worship?
Not too bad, boss. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you, Mr. President. And down there is Mr. Lemon Lyman himself, Jesse Starcher. Good old Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Oh my goodness, man! I came in under the wire. I think I got the final episode in at about 7:00. So I'm prepared, sort of. I got my notes ready to go. So I enjoyed the season. I can't wait to talk about it.
All right. I will turn off my sports brain and other things that are nagging at my psyche tonight and focus on this show. One of the things I was telling you guys before the show started, they introduced Mary Louise Parker as a as a feminist lobbyist and also a friend of Josh's from college, and who that he ends up dating, and she's sort of part and parcel and intertwined in some of his political dealings, especially towards the end. And let me tell you how I. It's funny. I said the same thing about the woman who plays Ainsley last season, and it made me start to think, like, if every season they introduce another female character to this show that I am absolutely in love with and adore, I have to talk about sort of the overall theme of the show, where the writing of it, they handle these female characters so well, and it made me think, Jesse, there's all these YouTube videos. Oh, you went broke and you went woke and now we're broke. And, death to the female girl boss character. And, oh my God, not this again. And like before Hollywood became obsessed with put a chick in it and make it gay, there used to be some fairly talented, insightful, adult writing of competent, well thought out,
Well-rounded.
thank you, well-rounded female characters. And I'm focusing on Mary Louise Parker, but I said that about Ainsley as well. And even this season, CJ, it took her about 3 seasons because but CJ really comes into her own this season as the White House spokesperson. She has a lot more agency, a lot more competence in the job, and the actress that plays her, I think, is the most comfortable I've seen in that role since the show started. So I just want to start there. How the show deals with its female characters. Gosh, I wish I wish modern TV wrote women this way now, and we didn't have all of these angry people on YouTube crying about how awful female characters are.
Well, then what would they do with their lives? We gotta
Maybe
give them something.
get one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, goodness, Amy Gardner, Mary Louise Parker's character. Yeah, we get our introduction to her, and I can remember, I think it's at the end of that episode where Josh, you could tell, is quite smitten with her, just like I was.
Mm-hmm.
And, he walks in there and he's talking to her, and she says that, you know what type of guy you are. I think this is how it went. I can't remember specifically exactly what was said, but you're the kind of guy that likes to get hit over the head. And I was like, oh my goodness, this girl is very, very competent, very strong in her role. She knows how to handle politics, especially for, she very feminist. And I was really curious how, I didn't know if she was just going to be one of these one-off characters that were going to show up, kind of like Sam's woman that kind of showed up for a few episodes and now we don't see much of her. She takes a pretty important role this season, very important as we get towards the end. And yeah, my feeling initially was like, okay, we have another lady who's going to have a specific political bent. But it's played very well for, Democrats that are in the White House. They're both on the same side usually,
Right?
But you watch them, clash. So as far as Mary Louise Parker goes, yes, she was great this season. CJ, right? She came into her own a little bit here towards the end of this season too. She has a great arc. Stockard Channing, Abby, we are in the midst of, I think at the beginning of this, they're still getting ready for the MS.
Yeah, when we wrap up our conversation about the women, we need to talk about the MS storyline because I have thoughts, I have words.
Yeah. So we're getting, all these female characters, as far as I could tell, written fine for this show. I mean, I would love to see something like this in today's media. So
I laughed hard the scene where when they first come to loggerheads about whatever the situation was with the bill and it not having certain provisions or something she didn't like about it, and she's in a position of I want it all my way or no way, and he's not in that position. He's in a position of having to compromise and work within the system of our checks and balances and the way Congress works with the president. They're just serving different masters and they can't seem to get it together. And so like he goes to make a phone call and like call somebody, she doesn't want him to, so she'll just touch the phone cord.
Yeah, I was laughing hard.
That is not the first time she will cut something
from
goodness. Him physically.
No.
There's no physical injury involved. The second time is a lot funnier. But no, it's fun. It's and I'm not trying to because I know Andrew and I have an issue with this, in some of the past episodes where we'll call for there's this thing that happens 2 seasons from now, but we can't talk about it. But they're kind of laying the seeds, and it's like, shut up, that's not what we're talking about. But no, it's actually I believe that episode was the one that the First Lady. Stockard Channing actually won an Emmy for Best
really?
Actress. Yes.
Wow.
It was one of the episodes of this season, but I am I'm pretty sure it was that episode.
Gavin Napier with the take, "'Tis the preachiest show I've ever actually enjoyed." Yes, sir. There's another really great girl episode, and it's so funny because you think of that scene from Avengers Endgame where all the women get together and we will protect you, whoever had the gauntlet at the time. I think it might have been Spider-Man.
Yeah, it was Spidey.
Yeah.
Don't worry, she's got help.
Yeah. And so, we have the girls get it done scene that was then, brutally mocked in The Boys. Here, our girls get it done scene. You have, Stockard Channing is we're gonna have to double back to this, but just to kind of get through what I wanted to talk about here, Dorian, we have this issue where she's gonna lose her license for a year. It comes out through all the depositions and investigations that she did not act in according with the way a doctor is supposed to act. She gave her husband medications for MS. They were keeping a secret. This is a huge deal. Basically, they make a deal, and we'll talk more at length in a few minutes about it. But part of that deal is she voluntarily gives up her medical license for a year. And part of her identity is being a doctor and a researcher, and she has to give that up. Stockard Channing really, I love, it's so funny. I didn't realize how good of an actress she was until I started watching this show. And it really shows this season because nuance, gosh, I miss nuance in art. But the nuance of her dealing with the fact that she was trying to be supportive of her husband, who is the president, and he's kind of getting off with a slap on the wrist, and she has to give up so much. And it wasn't her who had the MS. It wasn't her who decided to run for president. She was trying to help her husband not die, and the thanks she got was to lose a part of her identity. And she is a smart, capable, emotionally mature woman who is struggling hard like Atlas with the, with the stone on his back. It's affecting her emotionally. And so we get this great scene of them at one of the dinners, and it's her, I believe, CJ, Mary Louise Parker, I can't remember who else is there, but Donna walks in at the end, and at one point Donna accidentally lays into Stockard Channing's character.
They're all sitting away from the party getting drunk.
Yeah,
because Abby's just had enough.
Right,
and that's when Donna gets her basically Avengers Assemble moment.
Yeah, she fucking
catches the hammer and
yeah, she fucking says something to Stockard Channing, and you can see a subtle change in her face to almost to where, if you believe in auras, her aura changed colors real fast. And then she's like, let's go back to the party. And Donna's just like, well, I fucked myself. She's like, no, you're fine. I needed to hear that, but I didn't want to hear it. Kind of a moment.
Yeah, when Donna kind of snaps back. Yeah, when Donna snaps back to reality and realizes, oh my God, I just chewed out the first lady in front of witnesses. It's like you see reality smash back on her, and it's like, I don't know what Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde moment you just had, but Dr. Jekyll's back at the wheel and is shitting himself because he just screamed at the first lady.
She totally had a what have I done? I killed the wabbit moment.
Yeah.
Should not have drank so much.
But no, it's actually funny. Again, not to nod to something further, but since we are going to talk about the loss of the medical license thing, 2 seasons from now, Elmo, and I mean the actual Muppet from Sesame Street, Elmo, will bring that up to Abby Bartlett on an episode of The West Wing.
That's hilarious.
If nothing else, audience, that's just enough incentive for you to stay tuned. If this show's still preachy for you, give it another 2 seasons. Elmo gives the first lady shit.
There are moments. There was a moment, I think, in the second season. There's a moment in this season. This is one of them where, they stop being the president and first lady, and they're just people. At one point, Stockard Channing, Stockard Channing loses her elocution and goes back to her southern accent. It's fucking great, So it wasn't quite Rizzo, but it definitely had Rizzo-ish elements. And then you have here, where it's just 4 ladies. Yes, you have to be an adult and rise to the challenge and be better than yourself in order to do the good work that important people do, but you're still a human being. And I love that scene because it was a very human moment. It was a human moment for the Mary Louise Parker character, for CJ. They're lounging on the couch, they're drinking champagne and getting, and getting it. What was the line? It was just how often do I get to get boozy with the first lady?
Yeah,
she was out. Let's go.
Again, it's so perfect that it's the way they stage the scene. It literally looks like a high school slumber party, or further, since Stockard Channing's in the scene. It looks like almost the scene from Grease when they sing the Sandra Dee song. And
I would not have objected to her. My God, the president makes me want to barf. Look at me, I'm Martin Sheen. of songs too, you know. Anyway, your thoughts on the women, Dorian, and then we'll move on.
Oh no, it's fantastic. And I'm agreeing with you. I'm not going to repeat what you said. Every season we get a new strong female character, which I think is great because you know it's very much like you said. You know, we've had the girl boss thing, and then every once in a while we'll have something written to the level of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But we didn't do girl boss. We kind of did fish out of water who has to do the right thing, you know, and is struggling between what she knew and, you know, what she's learning.
Yeah.
In this show, and I think I'm wrong on this, Andrew, our Prime Minister of Canada, is dealing with state affairs and couldn't be with us tonight. He would correct me if I was on this. But I think this is the last season we have Aaron Sorkin and as head writer. I think it's either this one or next season.
I swear it was 4. I'll double check, but go ahead, man.
But regardless, this is either his last one or his swan song, more or less, going into season 4 because they really do attach. But yes, the women have a fantastic role in this, and I love the fact that they did twist the spotlight away from, you know, Josh and Sam and Toby. Like, they're still there, they're still powerhouses, but we gave, you know, we gave the girls their fair time in the spotlight, like we have given the rest of the boys, and it gets better in my opinion, especially in season 4. Kind of drops off after that, but you know, I look at this from when this show was coming out, of we were still learning, you know, how to write stuff that wasn't the Mary Tyler Moore show or I Love Lucy, where it's like the girl's always the idiot, the guy has to deal with it. And this was about the space and time that we were switching that with stuff like The Simpsons and Family Guy, where the guy was the idiot and the girl was the genius. This felt like a very balanced moment where I'll wrap up with this. They were allowed to like lay down their armor, and again, that's what that getting drunk scene is really about. Is everything's kind of going to hell, and like here's hoping it doesn't suck.
I want to bring up one last point with this, and then we can move on to something else, and we'll talk about the MS storyline because I have thoughts and I have feelings, and I am a human. There's a scene with Sam. They call Ainsley back to the West Wing. She is out at a social affair, so she is dressed to the nines, Jesse Starcher. She is in a tight little number, and she comes in and she takes off her coat, and Sam, being a man with a penis, looks at her and says, "You would make a good dog break its leash." And that is to say, you look very attractive, a professional lady, and I would like you to know that I think you are attractive. And she says, "I enjoy male attention. Thank you," is what happens in that scene. But there's a woman off to the side, and she had a reaction to something else earlier in the episode, but this was kind of like the major sticking point. She basically shamed Sam for objectifying Ainsley. It's one of those things where if it were written today, they'd have just shot Sam in the scene, and you know, and she would have worn his skin as a coat. But
fucking Cruella DeVille style.
Yeah,
bring me Sam.
But we hadn't quite lost our minds yet, and so, like a well-written movie, we have, you know, both sides of the issue being, I think, fairly represented.
Sure.
Because I think unless you go too far to one side, and this is me talking, so feel free to argue with me if you want to. But I think if you go too far to one side, then yes, you land firmly in the objectification camp. But somewhere in the middle, I think it's up to how the person takes it. You know, there are people who I have been flirty with who took it as innocent flirting, and then there were people who took the same behavior and thought it was inappropriate. To the people I thought it was inappropriate, I stopped. To the people who thought, you know, who were in on the gag and were enjoying it and participated in it, I kept doing it. And I remember having an argument like that with somebody who was of the former camp, who said, "No, you shouldn't do it with anybody, even the ones that agree with it. It's bad all the way around," which is this woman's point of view.
Yeah.
Because Sam's point of view is with his Sam is so tortured. What a tortured person Rob Lowe's character
You wouldn't
is.
be able to tell it by his reaction sometimes,
Right?
But he is, he is, but he's just
He's very
like this
measured.
He's very right. That's a good way to put it. I was going to say deer in the headlights because a lot of times shit will come at him and he'll just be like, okay, and then he takes it and then just kind of rolls with it, and then he walks off. You can tell he's utterly confused by what the hell just happened.
He's what my generation calls the golden retriever. He's sweet, he's loving, and then when you kick him, even if you're right to to be like, oh yes, you should have told me you did wrong. You kick him, and we all turn and go, oh, it's on. Did you kick that dog? You're fucking dead.
So. So Sam so after he's dressed down by this woman about do not objectify women, do not comment on a woman's looks. She is a professional lady and should be treated as such. Her looks are irrelevant. And he's like, but I said a nice thing. And he was like, no. Any comment about a woman's appearance is bad. Period, comma, the end. And he then spends the next episode, like the whole rest of the episode, oh my God, what have I done? And then finally he talks to Ainsley, and so he called Ainsley into the office to work on something of importance and has a deadline. And now he's utterly distracted. And Ainsley's like, I wasn't offended, and I'm going to need you to focus.
He feels he needs to apologize because he obviously was told you've done wrong. And she's like, what is your problem? And then, we have it out there in the room when she shows up and the other girl are in the same room. And we get a nice little discussion there.
Yeah, and Ainsley's point of view was what I was talking about. Of like, look, I think it's entirely up to me if I feel objectified or not, which is where I land on this sort of thing. I think if you're not like being a creepy Vince McMahon get over here, you rapist pervert about the whole thing. If you're not using your position of power to influence somebody in a sexual manner or take advantage of them sexually, that aside, which is its own separate issue, I think being flirty or complimenting someone's appearance isn't objectification unless they think it is, in which case you don't do it anymore. Oops.
Right. Well, like with Ainsley being obviously very Southern, him saying that is almost like he's wanted to say something like that to her, so he kind of looked up a Southern colloquialism and found that one and was like, that'll do.
Yeah, I can see that.
I hear your people like this sort of thing.
Here, let me sing you the song of your people. But
don't break my heart, my achy breaky. Sorry.
He's in like one of those sequin shirts with like the tassels with like a guitar.
I would like to bridge our two cultures.
But again, alternatively, I think it's funny that we that the writers stick on this because literally in the last season, during the funeral, the Between Two Cathedrals episode, Leo McGarry says to the president, she was a great old broad, and I'm like, oh, so that's fine. Yes, because it's John Spencer. You want to fight him? Knock yourself out.
I still use the word broad a lot. And it always kind of gets up. And I'm like, stop me. Try.
I used the word broad in a text yesterday, and I was really hoping that they understood that I was talking about in the wide sense. I was worried. I was like, oh no.
Oh, Jesse Star Jerry, you cad.
Then you have to reset the text and be like, the differential of space between point A and point B would be known in a colloquial way as broad.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I don't think an episode goes by that I don't refer to Alexis as toots. So,
yeah.
But yeah, we'll just do a quick one more round on this. My whole point of even bringing any of this up is I really like the way it was handled. You got one point of view, and it was very clear. You got another point of view, it was very clear. And I think where the show landed with it was probably the sanest, most mature place you can land with that sort of thing. And because it's before the Me Too movement and and all of that, it was a reminder that we can have that kind of conversation without it being shrill, or being used as a way to manipulate people into giving up any kind of agency they're ever going to have in a conversation. I'll give you the last word on that, Dorian, and then we'll talk about MS.
One of my favorite moments. I mean, we've already talked about the slumber party death.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the moments that lives rent free, and it was in my notes here, and I'm glad we touched on it, is Ainsley's. And I literally had the note down. Remember to say, "Here I come to save the day," but in a Southern accent. And again, that's "Here I come to save the day." But it really felt like that, and I loved how for that scene Sam takes it on the chin again, golden retriever, and I love that Ainsley, for all the times he stuck up for her in the last season, it's not a repayment of like, oh well crap, you have an IOU or you covered me, so my turn. It was literally she felt insulted for her coworker and friend, growing friend, the same way that he had for her in the previous season. So even though it wasn't an IOU, I loved that. And again, I love all the writing. Again, we talked about CJ coming into her own, and she does. I love, and again, not trying to spoil any future episodes or any future seasons. I love how everyone's relationship, especially with the president, grows, and they get to the point where they're not afraid to tell him he's wrong and he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And that CJ does kind of start to come into her own on this, but yeah, Ainsley's fucking bitch slap of this woman with the most, again, polite way you can do it.
We don't have to spend too long on it, but CJ's remark about Saudi Arabia in the I can't remember what country they were talking about.
Pakistan, I think.
No, well, it was the bit where they're going to assassinate the
Oh right, sorry. Go ahead.
Kumar, yeah. So that's its own separate conversation, but the slice of it that I want to take out just to talk about really for like half a second and then move on is when they ask CJ, "Are you outraged about Saudi Arabia?" And her whole thing is, we're well aware of what an awful place Saudi Arabia is for a woman, and we don't do anything about it. In fact, we count these people as our ally. We give them military aid.
They are our partner in peace, I think is what she said, something along those lines.
And I think women can drive now in Saudi Arabia is the big thing that happened in the past 20 years.
Yeah. I just saw a article about that, which is crazy. Go ahead.
But meanwhile, all the sports are in Saudi Arabia now. The boxing world was basically saved by Turkey Al, Turkey Al Singh, I think his name is. The WWE does quarterly tours of Saudi Arabia. It is being framed as a tourist destination. Mind you, not much has changed, but her point that we are, we count ourselves among the most self-righteous, and we have all of these bellowing arguments about what to do about human rights and everything, and then we turn a blind eye to Saudi Arabia because right now we don't have an alternative to oil. And I think her going, "I'm not outraged." This is the way it is, and I just learned to live with it. But she says it with such detest and disgust and disappointment. And I again, Gavin, said the show is preachy, but I think it's okay to be preachy, especially if you're Neil Fallon, right, Jesse?
Oh,
I think it's okay to be preachy at times, and with a certain degree of decorum and restraint. So I'll just let you guys respond to that, and then I'll go right into the MS thing. What do you think of CG's reaction, or did it remind you of something else to the Saudi Arabia thing?
I'll go ahead and start here.
Sorry, I did. You didn't ask.
I said Jesse.
Okay,
I didn't hear.
I heard Jesse.
One thing that this show does very well, in my opinion, is it contrasts how we are trying to remain obviously a professional. We're in the White House. We want to, this is politics. We need to maintain an image for the American people. And there is a lot of emotion that has to be contained sometimes because of some of the wrong stuff that is done. And because of politics, we are put in a situation where we have to turn the other cheek. Yeah. And you see that a lot in this show, where those values come into confrontation with the politics that they have. And that CJ situation that you're talking about is a prime example of somebody who is like, this was completely wrong. I mean, that's the best way to put it. Yeah. What happened to these people was not good. It was evil.
It was a bunch of children died in the fire because of the way Saudi Arabia works at the time. There was nothing they could do to save them.
It was a situation where they were dressed inappropriately,
Yeah.
and rescue workers were there to get the children out of this school as it caught fire, and the police would not allow them to do
Right.
that, and they let them burn to death. That's horrific.
Yeah.
And CJ has to stand up there and be the representation to the press, and her just letting it go, which there are a couple instances. I think there's one prime one there at the beginning of this season where, the emotions kind of get the best of her.
Let me jump in real quick. I want you to finish your point, but I interject with this. You know when I knew we were in trouble, Jesse?
When
You know when I
who
you know
me and you, the Duke boys, what was going on?
you know when I knew we were in trouble, Jesse, when I was in college, in the year of our Lord, 1994 to 1998. I don't remember which year it was. I don't remember what semester it was, but I took an African literature class, and I remember the African literature class being taught by an African professor who made the argument, because it was in the literature that we were reading, that clitoral mutilations, which were commonplace in some area of Africa in modern times as a part of the culture, had to be accepted by us because we should accept everyone's culture. It's not to say that we had to do it in the United States, but we had to accept that it was part of this area of Africa's culture. And I raised my hand and I said, that's horseshit.
Yeah.
We don't have to accept everyone's culture equally. Some things are inherently bad. And she said, you have to be more culturally accepting and appropriate. And I went, if this is the way we're going, this is in the 90s. If this is the way we're going, we're in a lot of trouble. If the way of the world is cultural relevance, moral relevance, and God knows Robert and I have talked about this a ton, then we're folks, we've seen this before. I don't know if you've ever heard watched a television show called The Bible, but the last time this happened, God destroyed 2 cities. Anyway, back to you.
Well, that kind of helps me illustrate my point. Like you yourself, you're not a politician, and the reason you're probably not in politics is because of shit like that. So, and
also the casual misogyny and and the mild racism, but
just one element. One element.
Excuse me, President Radulich, I have a question. Yes, what is it, Toots?
But I think that it's really tough to watch something.
Spaghetti from CNN. Sorry.
Note yourself: do not make Mark a spokesperson to the press if I ever get into the White House. Got it. Proceed.
Yeah. I figure, as a politician, it's got to be tough sometimes to have to put, country, politics, culture in the forefront before your emotions. And, CJ's struggle throughout this season a couple times shows that. So, but there you go.
All right. Do you have anything you want to add, Dorian, or can I get into the MS stuff? 30 minutes.
Very, very quickly. Talked about this show being preachy, and you also brought up the Bible. My opinion, and this is a perfect segue into what I was going to say anyways, I think it's right to be preachy when you have something to preach. There is a line from Star Trek Next Generation that lives also rent-free in my head. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm babbling on. You're the captain. You're allowed, sir. Yeah, I'm not allowed to go on and on about something everybody already knows. And to that point, I make this point, is yes, we should be horrified that clitoral mutilations, again, in the show, that happened in real life. And I'm sure a situation like the kids not being allowed to be rescued from the building because they were dressed inappropriately has also happened in real life. The issue I think that we jump to is that America has and continues to have, in many cases, superhero syndrome. Well, the problem with that is that we don't spend enough time, again, coming back to the Bible for a moment, there's a Bible verse that tells us, worry about the log in your own eye before you worry about the speck in your brother's. It's like basically broke down in English.
My son earlier.
Nice.
Did you really?
Segue. But no, the point of that is fix your own shit before you go around fixing everyone else's.
Yeah.
It's horrific that these things happen. But we do low key things to our children and women and gay, lesbian, trans people that if you add all those up, we are nowhere looking like heroes. We are dressed in the same monster costumes as the people we point fingers at. And that's what has to change first.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that they low-key have CJ say to us is, I've learned to live with it. Well, that's the problem. The show should make you start to think. So there's 1/4 of the presidential speech I do for every season. So we'll try to piecemeal it out throughout the show.
I have to be honest with you, Dorian. Can I talk to you, friend? Can I share with you? Can I avail my my heart of its pain to you?
Commiserate.
Thank you. I didn't love the first half of the season. And I'll tell you why I didn't love the first half of the season, Dorian Price of the Screaming Boy podcast. I didn't love the first half of the season because it was all MS all the time. This season 3 deals with the fallout of the chickens coming home to roost and the cat getting out of the bag and the cart being before the horse and the horse getting out of the barn. A lot of it deals with the investigation. We get all the way to the congressional hearing, which then gets aborted, and we can talk about the reason why. A lot of the season is Martin Sheen's President Bartlett dealing with the stress, the frustration, the trauma that he had dealt with as a child with his dad, kind of bubbling out because of this. His short-temperedness, his ill-temperedness with his staff because of this. The fallout between him and his wife because of MS, and the investigation. It took about half the season for it to finally get resolved and for us to get past it to talk about anything else. It sucked up all the air in the room. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was bored with it. This to me was a 3 or 4 season episode arc, and then we're done here. They got to the mid-season finale, I think, before we finally got past all of this. In a far enough way that I felt like this wasn't a shadow over the entire show anymore. None of this is a critique of the writing. It's something I talk about on Dan New Hollywood, where they took too much of one thing and stretched it over too long of the film.
That's the word. That's the word exactly. And Jesse will back me up on this, being our resident comic book lord. I completely agree with you, Mark, that the MS thing should have been its own full season. But what they decided to do, so again, we could have dealt with all the characters being that, that we didn't know. Why didn't you tell us? We've been fighting next to you this entire time. Did we trust you? Should we keep Bartlett as president? Them getting maybe job offers from other people. That should have been its own full season thing. And then season 4, we can deal with Saudi Arabia, all these things, so we can give it the spotlight it actually deserved. And Jesse, I know none of that sounded like it connected to comic books, but here's my segue into that: is they did with this season what they did with Iron Man 2. We're going to take 6 different storylines that could have been a perfect movie all on their own and just went like this.
You know what? I want to help you. The better one is Batman v Superman.
Okay. Yeah.
I was going to go with Iron Man 2 because I can still watch that movie and not want to hurt people. So I figured let's salute, because this season, like you said, this season's not bad. Like if you said this season sucks, then I would have gone Batman v Superman.
Okay,
but
fair.
Iron Man 2 I can still watch without, wanting to hurt myself or get alcohol poisoning. But no, it's sorry, wrapping up. It's exactly that. I stand by what he said about the preaching when you have something to preach. But again, it felt like we got halfway through the season. And it's like, okay, MS is done. Okay, so now we've got shit in the Middle East, and it's like, whoa, hang on, we're still.
Yeah,
we're still reeling here.
There's like a tonal whiplash happening with season 3.
I don't know what the filming situation was, but we're in. We talked about Isaac and Ishmael. I don't know if we talked about it at all on the last podcast, or maybe it was afterwards. But
we did we touched on it, but then afterwards we talked about it in depth.
Right. It struck me this season like, I wonder what was filmed prior to 9/11, and then what was possibly filmed afterward. I know the shows aired after it, But I wonder if something was filmed, like a bunch of this was filmed prior, and of course, the hot button issue is going to be the Middle East.
Six episodes were filmed prior to the 9/11 attacks.
9/11. So
in
then,
2001.
do you think maybe that had a hand in it, possibly, as to like how we're going to whiplash it over to something different?
As a filmmaker, yeah, I'm sure that's what happened. But also as somebody who's been taught, and again, I make the mistakes too. I'm not fucking Spielberg over here. Hell, fuck, Spielberg makes mistakes too. Yes, the president of the United States just said fuck. Deal with it.
There you go.
Better world, my fellow fucking Americans. But no, my issue with that, even though Jesse, you have a precise and perfect point, is that the brilliance of storytelling and filmmaking is at its core entertainment. Our job is to entertain people. You could have taken like I said earlier, you could have taken a whole season and messed with this. How do we feel about Saudi Arabia? We know not everyone there is terrorist, even though after 9/11, the next season comes out obviously in 2002. So people are still upset. They're still raw, from it. You could have taken a whole season and dealt with that. You could have written in a separate attack that was on United States soil to salute, the people who lost their lives, both military, civilian, and obviously our firefighters and police officers and EMTs who were our first responders in that attack. And very quick, I'm going to pause. For those of you who are like watching these reviews to kind of ease yourself into the season we're talking about, the Isaac and Ishmael episode that Jesse and I have been talking about was placed at the start of the season because the 9/11 attacks had just happened. So a big salute to all the people that lost their lives in 9/11, 25 odd years, hence, including our firefighters and police and EMT who were the first responders. Big salute to you guys. But yeah, no, my point being, Jesse, that again, I felt like I agree with Mark too. They tried to smash, the first part of this season in, and then the second part is even more interesting. And the first part should have been its own thing.
Mm-hmm. Here's how I would. I'm only going to say this because I don't want to spend too long rewriting the show. Frankly, it annoys me every time we this or Damn You Hollywood when we try to rewrite stuff and spend too long on it. But I think ending season 2 with what you find out earlier in season 2, like in other words, start season 2 with the bit about everyone's now starting, Richard Schiff's character finds out about it first, and then he has to share it with Sam. They have to share it with Josh. It's, little by little, everyone's starting to find out about this, and then eventually he has to announce that. I know, because season 2 ends. They've already spent the last little bit of season 2 with him having to start to tell people he's got MS, and the season finale is him telling the world he has MS and that he's going to run for a second term, despite the fact that he had agreed with his wife, one and done.
Mm.
That actually should have been how season 3 starts.
I agree.
Keep all of that out of season 2.
Yep.
The season finale to season 2 should have been honestly just dealing with the death of his secretary. That would have been fine.
Yeah.
Don't even deal with his second term until we get to season 3. Like rewrite this so that everything that happened at the end of season 2 is the beginning of season 3. Yeah. And then have the resolution of the MS stuff as the season finale of season 3. Then take the stuff that happened in the back half of season 3 and start it in season 4.
And I honestly, wrapping this up, because again, I do have my rule, which is it's not the price compromise. Shay and Mick and a couple other people have called it something else, but it's like whatever it is. The price precepts. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. If we all sit here and just bitch about the problem, it's like, okay, we'll fix it. But I take your point. We don't want to rewrite the entire fucking season. Yeah. Although, if you want that comment, people in the comments, write down below, and we'll start a whole new show.
The answer is no.
No, it's the situation of, I think they had too many ideas at one time, and 9/11 happened. I think just scrambled everyone's brains.
Yeah.
And because season 4, the plane seems to, it writes itself, and we're continuing with a storyline.
I just, as somebody going into it cold, it's look, I was not, and I don't want to do a whole thing on this, but I lived in New York when 9/11 was happening. I watched a tower fall. I could hear it. I could feel it. I was standing across a body of water when it happened. But I am now so far removed from that event that I didn't make the connection that all of this was happening until I went back and I read the wiki about that episode and this season. So that being said, like, I get it when you're dealing with it at the time. They feel like we have to address this now, and I do understand the mentality of the writers in a world where you have no idea what's going to happen next. I remember what it was like on 9/11 for me, and thinking, is this the beginning of car bombs and pizzerias like in Israel? If they can do this once with planes, can they do it again? I mean, does the war come home? I mean, we've never had our generation. There has not been a war on American soil since the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and that was it. So when I was there, those thoughts were very prevalent in my mind of like, well, what next? So if you're a Hollywood writer and you're dealing with the same kind of anxiety I was dealing with, sure, you would write that into the show. It makes sense to me.
And you're writing a show about the going-ons at the White House and
Right.
with the nation. I mean, I don't know how you try to avoid it. I don't think you can. I thought it was very masterful that they did, to be honest, how Sorkin did that without trying to like, okay, guys, this happened and this is a real world analog for you guys now. That didn't happen. They brought in elements of some of the political chaos that happens in the Oval Office around these countries, but did not bring that event in, because it would have dominated.
Let me tell you this, and I'm going to remove this on because I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I have very vivid memories of George Bush, don't laugh, fucking up his first year as president. He was struggling just a little, but it wasn't like he's an incompetent. Shut up. It was more of he had no defining policy. He was just kind of he seemed like lost in the woods in terms of, like, some people Reagan was going to restore America's economy to greatness. He was going to get us past the malaise. Bill Clinton, I'm going to be tough on crime. I'm going to be an education president. Like George Bush was like really struggling to find his thing. And then 9/11 happens and his thing becomes the war on terror. It's the thing that defined his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
You, as the writers, you kind of have to deal with that. The world was dealing with it. Contemporary fiction was going to deal with it.
Right.
And I think what Jesse was saying was right. And again, because I know you don't want to go down this rabbit hole, if you allow me, I think I can sum this up. Yes, the first part of the season should have been, a little different. We could have backed up into season 2 and pulled that forward. Second part of season 3 is very interesting. It draws us in. But we do have to celebrate Sorkin for the fact that this horrible event did happen in the country, and he didn't try to 180 the car to drive us into, okay, well, let's deal with this and, take care, and, push a whole, get rid of a whole bunch of great storyline just to deal with one thing. And
he wasn't a WWE writer from a few years ago.
Hi-oh.
Anyway, I had to talk about the MS stuff because it was the least interesting stuff of the show. I think individually there was some character stuff that I did like. The stuff with Channing Tatum's character. Channing Tatum, Jesus.
Whoa. What the hell? Where did he show up?
I want to see Martin Sheen and Channing Tatum in the same bed making out.
Who doesn't? But Stockard Channing, you dorks. She has some really good character moments.
Sorry, real quick. Problem is Channing Tatum would do it. He felt like, fuck yeah, I love Martin Sheen.
There's some really great character moments that come out of the MS stuff. It leads to, I want to bring this up and then I'm going to move on to a different subject. But Dorian, I'm going to stay with you for this. It came out of fucking nowhere. It felt like it came out of nowhere when Richard Schiff is having a drink with Martin Sheen, and he starts going, "Your father never liked you."
Oh man!
And I was like, "Yeah, we anyone with any understanding of trauma, mood disorder, depression, anxiety would catch that." They made it very obvious from the episodes that deal with his past. I don't know what the hell made that character in the narrative bring it up. And like it was just, it was that's why I'm like I'm open to hearing an explanation, because I'm watching that episode and maybe I was distracted, but he just sort of out of nowhere starts to psychoanalyze Martin Sheen, which brings me to another thing I loved about this season, and I'm glad I reminded myself because I would have forgotten him and been mad. But Martin Sheen having had a nerve touched, lashing out at him, and rightly so, that was not the appropriate way to do that. But on the one hand, I like the insight into Martin Sheen's character. On the other hand, the way it was handled seemed a little awkward.
Okay. I always took that line of Toby Richard Schiff saying to the president Martin Sheen, your father never liked you, as less of a fucking Sherlock Holmes, however you do just do that one. Not one of that moment of like literally when that conversation happens, the president has already put his hands in his pockets at the start of or the end of season 2 and at the start of season 3. We see him like yes, I'm gonna run, and guess what, I'm gonna win. I felt that was with everything Toby had been discovering about like the MS and stuff like that. It was maybe his really shitty backwards way of going, Mr. President, you don't have to run for this second term. You don't have to do all this just to prove your father wrong. Your father never liked you. That's never going to change. I thought there was some insight in that. I mean, it was said really shitty, but I felt it also connected to Toby's character. Toby's always the one saying shit that it's like,
yeah,
did you think about that before it flew out of your mouth? And in this case, it's another one of those moments with your father never liked you, but I felt, personally, like it was him going, are we doing this because it's the right thing? Or are we doing this so it's one last time for you to be like, suck it, old man?
Yeah, how much of this is about your bruised ego and trauma you're carrying around? And how much of this is about an obligation to serve your country?
And yeah, I'm gonna read this comment because I feel it's right too. Alexander said, I feel like the explanation long term is because Toby feels like he is of such a moral high ground. And I agree with Alexander on that. And in a way that what I was trying to say, they just said it a little bit better, is that throughout this series, he gets better. But only by micrometers does Toby come off his high horse in many cases, which to me makes him an interesting character.
Life constantly throwing stones at your horse will do that to you.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely fair. And I'm not shitting on Toby for that. It's just he lacks the social grace, in my opinion, to how.
I know you're not attacking Toby, not even like incidentally so, but I feel the need to stand up for the Tobys of the world.
No, and that's fair.
And say this: really intelligent, insightful, forward-thinking people struggle with this world. Because we are all in something, and I don't want to say anything personal, but Dorian, I'm going to say something and you're going to go, Some of us are moving at a very rapid pace, and some of us are processing things extremely fast, and it is painful to the point, it feels like growing pains in puberty to have to deal with the amount of slow processing, slowly moving people there are in this world. Like, the whole fun thing about the woke moment was a bunch of people thinking like we're enlightened, everyone else catch up. Get woke. That's what that meant. Imagine being one of the more brilliant people, in this world, and looking back at everyone else going, please, would the rest of you catch up, you fucking toaster ovens? And which is why Richard Schiff reacts the way that he does at times, because after a while, having to go at the speed of the slowest guy in class gets to you.
Right, and I really think it's very much what you said. It's like him trying to shove the car forward, and it's like, we don't have any gas yet, buddy. Stand down. But at the same time, from a writing standpoint, if he had done it in a more had that conversation of your father never liked you in a more open and heartfelt way, well, then that's a John Spencer scene. Why are we giving it to Toby? John Spencer's the one that would sit down with him and be like, Jed, please tell me we're doing this because it's the right thing to do, and not because we're trying to get back at the old man.
Because. And I'll tell you why, because I think narratively it made sense for somebody who doesn't have the relationship with Bartlett that Leo has.
Yeah.
In order to kind of poke at the veneer, because And
We
I'm
needed the
gonna
chatter.
I'm gonna link it to what happens with the therapist who comes back, who's like my favorite side character in this series, because I work professionally as a therapist, and I've been that guy. And it reminded me actually of Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. It's been a clip that's been circulating on TikTok lately when he throws, it's like, what do you want to do with your life? And he's like, I want to be a shepherd. He's like, get the fuck out of here. A therapist, and I know I said this to Jesse one time before, and he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, a therapist sometimes has to be very confrontational.
Mhm.
A therapist has to call you on your bullshit. It has to, it's called the less colloquial way of saying it, more professional would be reality testing. And it's great because Martin Sheen has this line when he's talking to the therapist. The therapist has been with him for 2 hours. He's like, we're done now. We have done this long enough. It is time to, President Bartlett, it is time to put down the barbells. You have worked out enough. No, I have to work out more, and I have to, I have to be big and strong. Nope, you've done enough, is what's happening there. And President Bartlett goes, but I'm me, and you're you, and we're done
When I say we're
when
done.
I say we're done. And he looks at him and he goes, you're right, I am me, and you are you, and I say we are done. Good day, sir. Like, yeah, motherfucker! Therapy for the win.
Just fucking Alan Arkin waving that flag.
Yes,
Not
sir.
Adam Arkin. I always screw that up.
Adam. I had it written down as Alan too. I keep forgetting it's Adam. Yes.
But yeah, no, again, I liked that line between him and Toby. I understand why you Mark were looking for an explanation, as you asked. But again, I thought it worked because I thought it was a good character moment between them, because I honestly like seeing the badass, I know everything, Professor Bartlett crack into this still angry, in my opinion, 25-ish-year-old boy who's, still in there. So, and I really thought that was, go ahead, Jesse, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say that initial confrontation between Toby and President Bartlett happened in an episode called Two Bartletts. And because there is, that trauma shaped this man. And sometimes you could tell there's two Bartletts there. There's the one that's, that you can kind of look at and say, okay, this which Bartlett am I going to get today? And of course, that sets up our next episode, which I thought that was one of the main purposes was Toby's confronting this guy. And then the next episode is Adam Arkin coming in and having to sit down, because the president has to confront himself first and understand that, okay, possibly I need help. And the good thing is that he does. And as one should, they seek help. And that's what I loved about that, is the fact that Toby wasn't scared. Probably should have been, because he did get a little out of line. And then it gets made up later. Those two sit down and have that chess episode. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, those two sitting down and having a game of chess, and him talking to him, and them trying to bury the hatchet was great. But yeah, President Bartlett has to realize that everybody has to realize that in order to work past some of the things that kind of hold you back, talk to somebody, talk to a therapist. And that was noble, in my opinion, of the president to actually sit down, not fire Toby. And then the next episode, we're talking to Adam Arkin's character. So, I love that whole confrontation and him having to try to deal with, some of the shit that happened in his past, which, it can be rough sometimes.
And I want to bring this up very, very quickly, because it does tie directly to what you've just said. I love how President Bartlett is dealing with Toby. Because John Spencer's, got his own issues. And meanwhile, over here, the Legion of Doom, we have the First Lady dealing with, in my opinion, one of the best standout characters of this season, Oliver motherfucking Platt, as the investigator. Yeah. I love how he takes none of her shit.
Yeah.
And is just so relaxed about it. Like, you'll go to jail. I mean,
But that's the thing. Like, I think in modern fiction, we don't have talented enough people who know the difference between drama and melodrama.
Yeah.
And The West Wing is a really great example of drama.
Well, because melodrama sells tickets.
Sometimes.
The epic lines that resound within us and we'll quote for ages is part of melodrama. But I think, to your point, and I'm just going to say this, and I'm gonna shut up and let you continue, is that we have lost the art of drama, where there are still lines from just straight dramas that stick with us and we quote forever as well.
Right. The show has to go a certain way or there isn't a show, but you don't have to make it melodramatic. And I think getting as close as you can to fully realized realistic characters is, for me, I won't speak for you guys, but but the reason I'm continuing to do this and I haven't given up like I have on Daredevil Born Again is shots fired.
Check out Mark's thoughts on that next week right here on W2M Network.
No, check out Alexis and her podcast. Join me in the sludge. But where I sludge wrestle. No, I'm just kidding. But I like it because because it's as close to realistic as you're gonna get. So Oliver Platt going, take it seriously or not, I paid either way, is exactly how someone of his position would act. Like, lady, I'm here for you. You don't want the help? Die on the train track for all I care. I'm not tied to you.
I didn't come dressed up in a fucking ranger hat and a bright red Mountie uniform. Right. I do not have to save you.
Yeah, and the same thing with the therapist character. He's like, I'm here because you're the one that can't sleep. Either take this seriously, go fuck yourself. I don't care if you're the president. Which is exactly the attitude you should have.
Fuck you. My dad's Alan Arkin. I got money.
Yeah. All right. Unless we've thrown a lot out there, and I'm gonna take a break before I bring in the last thing I want to talk about. Jesse, not your moments or your picture show or anything like that, but is there any topic that the show covered or storyline the show covered that we haven't talked about yet that's important to you that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, when I hit my moments, it might bring up some stuff that I think stuck out. But yeah, we're touching on a lot of the big things here. I feel like, as far as the season goes itself, it touches on a lot. Kind of sling this back to the stuff that we were talking about at first, where we just have that one interaction between a lady who was offended by something that Sam said and Ainsley coming in and defending him. That's a pattern that you see in quite a few of these episodes, where we get the opportunity to bring something that's probably pretty topical as far as like what one party sees or one party believes how they should act versus another, and they bring it into the season and they have a discussion. That's kind of one of the big things that I took away from this season, aside from the main plots of just about every episode, is the fact that it brought in a way of having a discourse on a lot of political subjects and we started this out episode 1 or season 1, I should say. I'm not the most political guy. This is a great way of bringing somebody in like me that says, okay, politics can be obviously confrontational, but it can also be a discussion point. People can actually have talk about something, and that is represented well here in the show. And I think that's why a lot of people laud this as one of their favorite shows of all time, is the fact that it's a little pie in the sky sometimes. It's really really positive. And a lot of times when I look at Jed Bartlett as president, I'm certain that we probably had presidents like that in the past. But my goodness, when you compare it to some of the stuff that we've seen recently, it's man, oh man, is it different?
Can I tell you, I'm going to pose the same question to Dorian in a moment. I know you have a list of notes there, so kind of attack. Don't talk about CJ and Mark Harmon because I'm saving that for last. But other than that, whatever else you guys got on your list, we're going to do it now. But I want to bring this up because it made me laugh. There are times in this show. Look, there's a lot more good about this show than bad, but it's not perfect. And there are some things I'm just like, you're a little too cute by half. You're funny guys. The season finale where he confronts the Republican nominee for president and it's basically Jed Bush. I fucking laughed my ass off.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, he was kind of doing the George he was kind of doing the George Bush squinty eye thing, but he looked a lot like Jed Bush. And I'm looking at the timing on this going, okay, were you just trying to take the Bush brothers together and merge them into one stupid looking character? And I'm watching that, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you guys, I see what you're doing there. He's the governor of Florida. You cheeky bastards. Self-insert is a word we use a lot these days. But go ahead, Dorian. Anything that we have not talked about, save Mark Harmon and CJ?
Yeah, that was on my list. However, one of the things that just was funny to me. I mean, first of all, anytime that Lord John motherfucking Marbury shows up in an episode,
I would like to kiss your breast. You may not. Speaking of objectifying women, my spirit animal, John Marbury.
He just comes and says whatever the fuck he wants. I swear.
And again, if you've watched our streams on the last 2 seasons, he shows up and we all love him, and I love how he can be as a character. He can be from one moment again. It's like I would love to kiss your breast. You may not. Funny comic relief, and then just like that, it's serious. The glasses go down on that little chain, and he's staring Bartlett in the eye, or in this case, not necessarily for this season, but like whoever he's staring at, he can get serious, and it's the great delivery of that actor. Who again, most people, if you haven't watched this series yet, and you do, you'll be like, holy crap, is that the Sheriff of Rottingham from Robin Hood Men in Tights? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is. But since the last thing was the Mark Harmon thing, the only other thing I found funny about this, or just a character that pops up is, and I don't remember the character's name exactly. I think I can find it. Hang on just a second. But it's Clark Gregg, who most of us know as Agent Coulson from the Avengers stuff, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that. He shows up in this as a small recurring character. Mike Casper is the character's name. And it was just fun, and it kind of does connect to my Mark Harmon thing, but it was really great to see this guy who I'd seen in other small stuff, Clark Gregg, I mean. And, he just works in that suit where you think he looks like a nebbish, but you're like, yeah, he could probably kick my ass, so I'm gonna step back. But no, that was overall. I know we're not like fully wrapping up, but if you're watching this podcast and you've been watching our episodes on it and you haven't started the season yet, this is a good time to start watching it. It's on Max. I think it'll be on Max for eternity. But no, this season, for everything we said, and I'll say again some more in the wrap up. For all of its missteps, I'm going to place that fully on the shoulders of the situation that was happening in the country and the world due to the attacks on the World Trade Center, and I think that's really what messed them up, to be honest.
So there's 2 other pieces of business here. One, the final plot line that I wanted to talk about is the late season 3 arc where CJ gets a death threat. She is assigned a bodyguard. That bodyguard is Mark Harmon, who is totes adorbs. And because they are 2 attractive people in Hollywood who are within reasonable proximity to each other, they of course have amorous feelings for each other. And lo and behold, no, I is Mia, Mark Harmon, and a daring after having solved the problem of who was threatening CJ, and they arrest this man. And he goes to get her flowers in a Snicker bar, as any romantic man would do for his woman. He sees a robbery in progress, and he is a hero, and he takes one down, but he doesn't see the other guy because stupid. And he is shot
You
down.
knew it was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen.
He's not the kind of person who takes a lightsaber to the gut and gets better. You know what I mean? He's the kind of human who, if you shoot him in the chest, he dies immediately.
Well, yeah, I mean, they wanted Liam Neeson for the role, but he was like, I've already gotten killed randomly in a movie while I was protecting somebody. I ain't doing it twice in a row. Fuck you.
Yeah, so...
I'll come back when you're doing Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'll come back as a ghost.
So it's so funny because they've mentioned a couple of times throughout 3 seasons that CJ doesn't have a tremendously active love life. Like something about like when was the last time you had a boyfriend? It's like Carter was in the White House or some shit. I don't remember what she said something funny about it. So the fact that she develops feelings for Mark Harmon, who's her bodyguard, and then he dies, and poor CJ. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm making light of it, but it broke my heart. I cried. I was like, "Oh, this is the saddest fucking thing ever." Like the use of the song, my God, the way music fucks with your head. The use of the song "Hallelujah," the shots of CJ crying on the curb, Mark Harmon's dead body, and like other things they were cutting into that montage. Tears on my pillow, pain in my heart over dead Mark Harmon, Jesse.
I'm so sorry, Mark. Yeah, it was very obvious what was going to happen to him, in my opinion. It was so funny because I remember when we first started this podcast, I was expecting, scandal after scandal, and another episode that just completely unbelievable what happened. But a lot of that is usually tempered by, okay, this is just American politics. These are people working through American politics. We're not going to have a lot of shocking moments. There might be some shocking political intrigue every once in a while. But this is probably, as far as all 3 seasons go, missing Mrs. Lanningham's death kind of weighed on me, but this was kind of shocking, but it was also very predictable in my opinion. Like I knew
I had a Tom King Batman moment. Like, God damn it, why can't CJ be happy?
Yeah.
It cutting back and forth. The one again, it makes me cry too. Sorry, I just wanted to break in real quick on this.
Go ahead.
And you said, Mark, what they're cutting back and forth between the president giving the order to kill the defense minister.
Yeah.
And that cutting back, because like the beauty of, like, again, I didn't want Mark Harmon to die. I thought, like,
sorry, you cut in, now I have to cut in. Dude, fucking Leo's lied about this is the worst part of your liberalism. You ever just want to fuck your TV? Like, oh, what a moment that was. Yeah, right in the eyes, and I didn't care.
While the national anthem plays, and it looks like fucking fireworks. Because
one hand on the cock, one right up here. Yes, Leo. That is the worst part of your liberalism. It's such a good line. Sorry,
and again, like I know we're talking about Harmon and CJ, and I'm gonna get back to that. That's every season I love how Leo and President Bartlett's relationship is, because we throw this all around. My generation throws this around all the time, and it's literally concrete here. President Bartlett and Leo are friendship goals, and I don't care which one I am. If I have to be the traumatized as a kid idiot who does good shit, fine. If I get to be the badass who had an alcohol problem and is like worked through it, and I'm like, I'm the dude behind the dude with the power's best friend who just goes, this is the worst part of your liberalism.
Yeah,
I'm also down with that.
He doesn't want to take a deal because everything to protect the president. It's hard to disrespect that level of duty.
And the reason that we will come back to this, does bring us back to CJ and Mark Harmon character. The reason I liked it is because we ended the last season with dealing with the president's MS. We dealt with that, obviously, we ended season 1 with the president being shot, and he's okay, but Josh is down for the count. Okay, well,
that was pretty shocking. I'll give you that.
Yeah, no, and that was done perfectly. We in season 2 with we've lost Mrs. Lanningham. We're down for the count because Mrs. Lanningham. I don't care how fantastic your grandparents were. I don't care if they were gods and goddesses on Earth. Everybody wants Mrs. Lanningham to be either their grandma or their aunt, and you could not tell me differently. So we lose that. We're down for the count on that. The president has MS. Now we're finding out. We've come to love President Bartlett. The reason I think season 3's ending, its season finale, is so perfect is it's putting President Bartlett in a situation. There is not a good answer to this. There was never a good answer to this. And mirror him through the looking glass doing that to CJ. There will not always be a good answer. And some days, everything's going to go wrong. Everything that should go right. A Secret Service agent getting, popped by some low-ass guy stealing from a convenience store is going to happen. It shouldn't, but again, through the glass and in the lens, no pun intended, that this show is told, I felt that they reached out and grabbed us with that, and we're sitting with these people that we love, you know, at least we hope we love by season 3. Because if you don't love him by season 3, why the fuck are you still watching? Ainsley's pretty. All right, fair. But that's why I'm still watching. But no,
Don't get enough of her this season, that's for sure. Unfortunately,
I almost thought she went to Mandyland. That's sad.
Right. It's like the joke they make in Big Bang Theory when it's like one of Howard or Leonard's girlfriends disappears. It's like, did Leonard or Howard just murder them? Or like they actually serial killers? Is that the joke we're gonna get at the end of the show? But no, yes, I feel it's the storyline itself was melodramatic, but again, as you said, Mark, it was handled as a drama. It was handled as this could happen at any given time. There's a previous episode and previous scene I really didn't really touch on because it wasn't that horrifically important. It is, but it's more of a character study for Sam. And the episode is literally called New York Minute, and it's based off of the song with the same name. You know, in a New York Minute,
Woo! Yep.
anything can change. And I feel that I loved Hallelujah for this, but I honestly think that this episode, the ending of this episode, Don Henley's New York Minute playing, maybe a slightly slower tempo version would have been a little bit better, simply because Hallelujah, in my opinion, is overdone. But I have nothing to say because I'm the young generation. You guys are going, oh, you think it's overdone? Let me lay out all the movies and TV shows that's been in,
I
child.
don't know how many times I've heard All Along the Watchtower, Dorian.
I will cut you off. But no, I loved their chemistry when they're on the shooting range. It's just so adorable because like they didn't do something. I've been kind of on a James Bond kick recently, and there was a reviewer that reviewed one of the James Bond movies, and what he said ties in directly to this. It would have been so easy to turn CJ into the wilting flower that we had in like Sean Connery and Roger Moore's era, where it's like he just smiles and they're like, my clothes are off. You know, they kept CJ's personality through the entire relationship, which makes the hammer blow, in my opinion, all the harder because it's like they could have gotten married and had babies, and I hate you, Aaron Sorkin. You've ruined my childhood. While George Lucas looks at everyone and goes, man's gonna be fucking with you now, Habib. But no, it's very much in summation. I think they handled it well. I loved the cutaway and the juxtaposition of yet another member of the president's staff dealing with a personal heartbreak, while the president's dealing with something that's not going to kill him, but it is going to leave a wound.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to because I want Jesse to do his moments, and I want to read Andrew's laundry list here, and I want to end soon. But I gotta say this, you know, it should not be easy to kill a guy for all the right whatever the right reasons are, and you know, are there right reasons? Yeah, probably. I don't want to have that debate because it's going to turn into a debate over the death penalty, and that's not why we're here.
5 years later.
Yeah. But, you know, is there a philosophical sort of high-minded discussion over are there good reasons to kill people? Sure. Should it be easy? Never. Let me be very clear about that. It should never be easy to kill another human being. And that's the struggle there. And then you couch it in the liberals are pussy pansy waste, and Republicans are the dads of this country. They're the tough gun-toting disciplinarians.
We'll keep you safe.
Yeah, and now you are one of those liberal panty waist presidents, and you have to project an air of toughness, or your dad'll beat you. Look at what he has to deal with in that scene. It's such a layer. When him and Leo were talking at the play, and he's like, I don't want to do this, and Leo's like, you have to. Yeah. You know, we often don't talk about how good an actor Martin Sheen is. And we don't appreciate acting with your face as much as we should. And if you were looking for a modern example of something that doesn't look like a fucking cartoon, or, you know, isn't reduced to the level of entertaining a child, watch that scene, because it is perfect, subtle acting and drama between it's John Spencer and Martin Sheen. It is majestic.
It is the pinnacle of show don't tell.
Yeah.
There is so much emotion going on in just those moments.
And really, you know, slow clap of bravery for the writers and Aaron Sorkin for going through with it and not kind of going for the low-hanging fruit of, no, killing people is wrong and there's another way. No, presidents kill people. It happens. You know,
Well, and-
I know my friends on the left love them some Barack Obama, but you know, have you ever seen some of the people on the left who are just like, boy, he killed a lot of people with drones. Yeah, that's the job at times, unfortunately.
And this seems to be something that we've done in the season before, and that's because we don't go through every episode. Because again, it would be a 4-hour podcast, but there is an episode in I believe it is season 2 where the president does have to deal with the fact that they couldn't stop a death sentence.
Yeah.
And the whole point of that episode is them not knowing, is he guilty or not? I mean, they had evidence that proved he was, but there was some circumstantial stuff in there. There was some stuff that made us question.
Let me tell you something. You know how often there's evidence that proves somebody is guilty as the day is long until there isn't?
Exactly. And I'm sorry, you took the words right out of my mouth. And then that episode from the previous season is literally the President Bartlett, as a Catholic, being in front of this priest and taking confession, because it's like, okay, I murdered someone, and I that one is more on a spiritual level of like, only God kills. It's like, okay, well, again, we're not going to get into a debate on that, but the point being exactly what you said. Look what you have to deal with in this job. It's like, do I kill this one person and stop this and save lives at the sake of a piece of my own soul? Probably a big piece. Or do I go, again, no, killing is wrong. And then it's like you fill the graveyard and it's like, well, they don't seem to agree with you.
All right, Jesse.
Oh.
What are your magic moments?
My goodness.
Since we have a couple more seasons of this real quick while he's getting his list together. I'm sure it's probably already up. We need to have like a smash cut to like his own little intro of like a patriotic theme where it's like, Jesse's top 10 moments.
Goodness.
And it's flashes of pictures that are just off center of his groin.
Not where I was going with, but hey, we're open to artistic vision. Fuck it.
I'll send you the pictures tonight. We get it all uploaded here on the thing.
2 years of David Simon shows where everyone's like, all right, Jesse, show me pictures of your penis. It's like, they're not. They're just not.
I've finally been broken. All right. Yeah, we're going to go. I'm going to go episode by episode. Each moment that held a special place in my heart. Here we go. All right. 20-ish. 21, 22.
Hit it, Darren.
Here we go. All right. So episode 1, Manchester. I think this is a conversation between CJ and Toby. You want to play some pool? I don't know how to play pool. You want to play for money? Sure. So Margaret in episode 2 is very concerned that Leo is making appointments. She's not. She doesn't think that Leo understands the rules here. Margaret is the one that makes the appointments. Margaret, oh, love it. Because next,
pause real quick and give a huge shout out to Margaret, because so far in the seasons we have not given her enough love, and with all the other beautiful, awesome girls we've given love to, can we give a huge just Margaret is awesome?
This was the least dingbatty season for her so far.
Then the next episode is a Margaret moment as well, where Bruto is introduced and he cannot remember Margaret's name for the life of him. He thinks he's just a different person. She has no idea, and that's going to tie into a later moment as well. Episode 4. This is the one where CJ versus the fashion reporter that's in the press.
Oh yeah.
And oh my gosh. And she comes like the fashion reporter's talking about how she was changing outfits in between and isn't too concerned about the Americans getting killed. Episode 5, which quick note, Dabney Coleman, but episode 5, a very weird, timely situation here where we have a discussion about the elimination of pennies. And I was like, oh shit, what that just literally in the news right now.
Yep.
And watching Sam like do the mental math of like, and then of course he obsesses about it, which is hilarious. Episode 6, there are moments, a lot of these moments center around CJ this season for me for some reason. Her singing I'm Too Sexy and trying to figure out exactly what that song means. That was good stuff.
That's quality.
Episode 7, the Indians in the lobby. All right. There's a lot that was great in that episode, but the Butterball hotline, which I did not know existed, was fantastic. And watching the president call and get some turkey cooking tips, which he couldn't stop talking to somebody about stuffing. Episode 8. There's a quote here, and you guys, maybe you remember it. I don't know, but I wrote it down. Who are we to suggest gun control when we sell them to the men who beat their women? Very powerful. And I think this is another CJ statement, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. I could be wrong. This might be somebody else. But of course, going episode to episode, I didn't write down who it was that said that. Episode 9, Mrs. Landingham is back in like a flashback episode. And it's so good to see her just for that quick second. And you're like, oh, thank goodness, just a little bit of joy there. Episode 10, Hit and Run Josh. I thought that was a cute name. He's known as Hit and Run Josh. Oh boy. Episode 11. Okay. Personal gripe from me and my wife, but mostly from my wife because she cannot stand people who do this. Toby needs to chew with his mouth shut. Do not smack your damn lips while you're sitting there eating. And I think that they purposely did that because it's very obvious in at least a couple episodes this season. Drove my wife up the wall. Episode 12, and we already talked about it. Toby versus Jed at the end of that episode, the two Bartletts. Great piece of writing. And then, of course, Adam Arkin being back in episode 13 because the president can't sleep. Episode 14, I realized that I was scrolling through YouTube, and of course, the algorithms there. It's probably seen some stuff that I did with West Wing on there. And I noticed that there was a 2020 special of West Wing where they are they're sitting there playing chess, and I think that they redid the episode because I watched a little bit of it, and it's just this episode again, filmed obviously differently. We're minus John Spencer at that point, but
they filmed it live on stage, and they had a stand-in for it.
Did they? Okay,
yes. I didn't. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I want to watch it again just to see what they did, and I was amazed that they redid it, and I was so glad. But go ahead.
Just very quickly, just to let you know, if you've ever seen someone film a live performance of a stage show, whether it's a musical or it's just a straight drama, that's how they filmed it.
Okay,
you can literally tell they're on stage, and it really brings the personality to it. Which I was planning on. Like, I had a note in future to be like, get to that on season finale. But since you brought it up here, we can hit it back then too. But it's fantastic. Right. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
Episode 15. Donna is no longer an American citizen because they redrew the border. But then they redrew it. But they did something to where she is because of some kind of law.
They grandfathered her in is what happened.
There it is. Episode 16. Just look at the name. Lemon Lyman. That's right. Lemon Lyman. And Josh wanting to actually respond to every single crazy person that's on that website is just, what a representation of how out of control stuff has gotten nowadays. But he's trying to sit there and respond to these people don't know what they're talking about. And he has Donna type it all up. Like, Donna comes in there and she has no interest and does not understand why Josh wants to do this. Why do you want to sabotage yourself by doing this? She knows exactly what's going to happen.
Some people just want to fight. That's all they want to do.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Ain't that the truth, baby?
Sorry, Jesse. I gotta. I try not to interrupt during your list, but
you're the reason
I did not bring that up in my notes is because of what your call name is on this, and I knew you were going to get to it. But I have dealt with in Las Vegas actors who were like that, who got just a small following.
Oh my goodness, that's tough.
And you're going, and again, I'm backstage. We're friends, but I'm like, dude, you don't want to do this. It's
right, dude.
Like, again, you want the Admiral Akbar mask and be able to pull it on and go, it's a trap. But they don't listen. And that's one of the. It's one of my favorite episodes of this season. But I didn't want to mess with it since you put it in your call sign, because I knew you were going to attack it. But like, it was so sad watching it again for this review. I'm like, oh my god, I fucking lived this. I watched this happen.
Episode 17. I got two things here. Unfortunately, Andrew could not join us tonight, but I did want to ask him if a sumo could actually get it done in front of a goalie, goal in hockey. And then also the important thing that we take away from episode 17 is that is not a rebate. That is an advance. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, taxes. I love how the president's doing Charlie's taxes. You owe us $400. Go ahead and pay me. Episode 18. So this is where, Mark, we were talking earlier, I think, where we had a situation where they did a documentary episode where they talked to presidents and other staff members of the White House through different administrations. So yeah, I ended up watching that. I do have a note specifically from that near the end, and I'm sorry, my goodness, I should have wrote down who it was that said it, but there was a great quote that is, "Trust is the coin of the realm," and I can't remember which staff member said that, but he was pointing out that in politics, the more trust that you can get, the more power that you have. And man, that stuck with me, and especially because of some of the stuff that we've been seeing recently. Who can you trust anymore?
It was said by George Shultz, who was on
you.
President Nixon's thing. Sorry, I had that in my notes too, but I didn't know how deep diving we were getting, so I just there's some things I skipped over.
I when I watched this episode, like I said, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I've only got 4 episodes left. I watched the episode and I'm like, oh crap, I didn't watch the actual episode because the next episode showing the recap, and I'm like, none of this happened. What did I miss? It was just a documentary. But then I found
you lied to me, West Wing.
I was really worried. But anyway, it was still good nonetheless. And then my note for the actual episode 18 was Mark Harmon for sure. We already talked about that. Episode 19, the Black Vera Wang, which my note out of here is Donna and the moose meat. She gives it to an intern, it ends up on eBay. The episode 20, this is not very important because we're getting close. This is episode 20 and 21. There's some important shit that's happening in these last 2 episodes. But North versus South Dakota, for some reason, made actually, I should say the North Dakota's, suggestion, like, we're just going to change our name to Dakota. And I was like, that's actually probably a pretty solid argument. You want to be seen, and South Dakota would be thought of as the also ran. I thought that was very interesting. Just a little sneak peek of state politics, which was pretty cool. And then episode 21, crime. Boy, I don't know, was when I decided to kick your ass. That was a line. That's a Bartlett line. I loved it.
That's good stuff.
There you go. That's my notes.
All right. We're going to conclude here so I can be fair to Flair. Andrew couldn't be here tonight. He was not feeling well, but he sent me a list. So the back half of season 3 and all of season 4 are high on Alicia Mine's watch list. That's his wife. John Spencer is fantastic in the Bartlett for America. Can't remember if I mentioned this before, but he was a recovering alcoholic and brought that to his performance of Leo. Yeah, John Spencer is really, really great in this season, and he's dealing with the flashbacks to why the Republicans had him over a barrel with his alcoholism and why he almost fell on his sword. That was good shit. That line about I don't get drunk with people, I get drunk by myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shout back to when he got called out for it earlier.
Yeah.
In I believe the end of season 1. It's like, and the girl almost gets fired. He's like, well, that's and he hires her back. He's like, the problem was, as an alcoholic, I don't want just 1 drink. I want 12.
Right.
On
the Day Before is a great episode that touches on some of the real life horse trading that goes on in politics. The whole arc starting from the 2 Bartletts on is great in terms of getting into that character and his internal conflicts and his continuing external conflicts with Toby. Oh, good. I'm looking forward to that. Toby and Bartlett might be my Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn fight forever. Just keep fighting each other. And let me tell you, because I'm sympathetic towards Toby than I am towards Bartlett. Though I joke that Robert, is a lot like President Bartlett, but only in terms of like keeping people hostage verbally. But I'd be lying.
Boy, does Bartlett do that?
I would be lying, and I would be intellectually dishonest if I didn't see a lot of myself in Bartlett too. Some of the way that he interacts with people, some of his personality quirks, certainly the need to have your father's approval. And I'm like, yeah, this is a character that I can personally identify with. Dead Irish Writers is fun, but someone should look at a map. The border between Minnesota and Manitoba is a fucking straight line. Is a straight line, and also Lord fucking Marbury. I may start greeting people, men or women, or foul, as I'm. May I kiss your breasts? See how long it takes before I get arrested. We mentioned it already, but first appearance of Clark Gregg as Mike Casper. He becomes a fun, recurring character. Also, fantastic line delivery each time. You know what? He was one of the high points of the Marvel movies too. When wasn't an actual superhero, he had some great line deliveries.
Even in the show, the Agents of Shield show, he
Yeah,
had some great line deliveries that were kind of similar to the ones in this. So
he brought up the Mark Harmon, Allison Janney chemistry is fantastic. Yes, they have sizzling sexual chemistry. Cliff Cali is a fun character and gets some good moments. The Sharif arc is really great in terms of examining decisions presidents must make. Yes, this will come back in season 4. All right. Well, then I think unless anyone has a burning desire or I missed something, and yes, Mr. President,
just one
keeping us hostage.
No, actually, thinking about national parks, it reminds me. No, there's something very small, and I didn't want to bring it up in the main review because I knew it would derail something. Very famous actor and also impersonator of Mark Twain, Hal Holbrook, shows up at the end of this, and he's been in Star Trek Next Generation as Mark Twain and so many other things. He was in John Carpenter's The Fog. He shows up for the first time as a recurring character in future seasons, and again, just for the fans of us who really love old movies, and Hal Holbrook has sadly passed, but again, he always brings his A game to the table, as most of the people in the show do. But I didn't want the show to end without us, giving Mr. Holbrook a salute, because he does, even in the one episode he's in, he still is like, he's awesome.
Dorian,
again,
if you do not wrap this up, I will wait for you in the tall grass podcaster.
I'm literally wrapping it up now. I was just saying I wanted to bring up Hal Holbrook.
Sorry, I wanted to read that line that Andrew sent me. All right. He says, "I will wait for you in the tall grass, Congressman," is a Hall of Fame threat. Yeah, that's one I will remember. This was a great conversation. Thank you guys. I really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed at least half of this season. Looking forward to season 4. So that'll be next month. April. April. April.
Damn, I have stuff going on April.
Fuck, when are we doing this? You know what? I'll just look it up. The next time we are talking The West Wing, by God, is April 17th. Thursday, April 17th. Thursday. Chris Bailey. Yes. Oh, that's right. We're doing that, and I'll have to and I'll be watching Josh Barnett's Bloodsport in the background. So there. It's WrestleMania weekend. God damn it, Jesse.
Oh my.
So, speaking of God damn it, last night I stayed up way too late talking wrestling with Harry Broadhurst. We reviewed AEW Revolution. We talked a little Elimination Chamber. We talked WrestleMania. A fun time was had by all. I made my pitch for Effie to be in this year's Royal Rumble coming up, and nobody listens to Pete. Also, earlier than that, myself and Robert Winfrey tore Mickey 17 a new asshole. Oh boy!
Oh goodness!
So that was fun. Speaking of assholes, this Sunday I will be on your show, Jesse. We will be talking Sons of Anarchy Redwood Original.
That's this Sunday. I've got my notes done and everything.
Monday is our review of Novocaine. Tuesday, Alexis and Zachary Strobel will be reviewing The Day the Earth Blew Up. Wednesday, I'm going to see Dueling Pianos. Thursday, the beautiful, vivacious, the sexy, the shaken, not stirred, Mick Wanamaker and her pet boy, Matt Kenter, will be with me on a triple feature, and we'll be doing one of many, hopefully this year, streaming movie wrap-ups. We will be talking Back in Action with Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx. You're cordially invited with Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell, and finally, Kinda Pregnant with Amy Schumer. So that's what we got going on. Jesse, what do you got going on?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's take a look here. Yesterday, nope. Let's try Monday. My goodness, boy, as the week flew by. Monday.
It's only Tuesday, Lemon.
I tell you, on the Unspoken Issues podcast, where we talk 90s comics, I dropped the discussion between me and Chris Armstrong on Mutant X, which is Havoc. If you guys know about Scott Summers' young brother, Cyclops' younger brother, he ends up in an alternate dimension. That's right. And We talked about the first issue there, so we had a good discussion. Prior to that, Mark Radulich and myself on the Source Material Comics podcast, you can hear us finishing out volume 6 of Sons of Anarchy. So we did all 6 volumes. Well, I say 6 volumes. I don't know if they were actually volumes per se. We divided them up into stories, but we finished that whole title out. So I actually put together a Spotify playlist of all 6 episodes if you want to go and check that out. And I think you could probably check out some of the Snap Material offerings that we have. Myself and Evan Bevins got together. If anything, check out the top 5. Those are always fun discussions where we discuss Marvel Snap, the mobile Marvel card game. So that
I think full of crackers.
Yeah, I will not. I think that's all I got right now. That's all I want to promote.
Dorian, you'll be back on April 10th to do a triple feature with me and other people's. We're going to be doing one of my favorite things, a hard body trilogy of the Hard Bodies, the movie, 10 and Spring Break. Yes, we're doing 80s hard body movies. I have been dying to do this show for some time now. But aside from that, what else you got going on in your world, Mr. Price?
And by the way, folks, the only reason that I'm on that podcast is just to bring someone in who had never seen the movies and is a film student, just to kind of balance of them going.
There's going to be a lot of licking the screen in that episode.
They're just down. But no, obviously, still working on and filming a whole bunch of stuff. Sadly, Frikey Pictures, Mark, has fully gone down. It's still a subsidiary of the company, but due to some sad events of scammers out there, and I speak to all the photographers, artists out there, please be careful of who you're working with. Get contracts, get backup. Mine is not the first company to get hit. We're in no legal trouble. We have done nothing wrong, but the name has to go under for a while. So now we are officially Dorian Price Videography and Photography on Instagram. We are Dorian Price, or Dorian _Price_, and you get the idea from there. Photo and video. And as always, if it needs to be photoed or taken a picture of, videoed, edited, or created, we want to make your dreams come true. I'm going to leave the rest of it till next Thursday because Miss Wanamaker has a whole bunch of stuff that she knows that we're doing that I can't talk about yet because NDAs are a fun thing. And by the way, Mr. Radulich, and yes, I am slipping into a southern accent. Since you called Mr. Kettner her boy toy, I'll remember to tell him you said that.
I'll be waiting for him in the tall grass.
Right. Fight. But no, really excited to do season 4 of this show. Always excited to hang out with you two gentlemen. And of course, our hearts and prayers go out to our Prime Minister of Canada, Andrew. It's nothing terminal or horrible. He just did not feel well. And again, you don't want somebody doing a podcast doing this the whole time.
And it is not in protest either.
Fuck you people. I did a podcast with cancer in my bed. Remember that, Jesse? Remember the Hikatea? Where I was literally laying down in bed. And another thing about Wonder Woman. Remember that?
It always has to be about you, isn't it? I'm messing with you. Yes, I run the podcast is about me. But no, that's all I have to pitch right now. For those of you in the Columbia and Ottawa area, Elton Dan and the Rocket Band, who are your premier cover band of all Elton John music from the beginning of his career all the way through the 80s, are going to be playing in Columbia and Ottawa. You can check them out at Elton Dan and the Rocket Band on Facebook, or Elton Dan and the Rocket Band fans on Facebook. Check them out. It's going to be a great show. I'm going to be there. So if you've disagreed with anything I've said, that would be your time to beat the crap out of me. And as Mark has pointed out twice now, wait for me in the tall grass.
All right. Well, folks, idle threats are the phrase that pays here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. So for Mr. President, for Jesse Starcher, I would like to go acknowledge the fact that my girlfriend arrived about half an hour ago. Be well, be safe, and behave.